Hey guys, and welcome back to the Odd Socks channel. Today we are doing another deep dive completion review, and once again a deep dive completion review is where I need to play a game until completion. It doesn't matter how many save states I use or how many load-ins I use, as long as I complete the game before I review it. And today we are reviewing Double Dragon 2 The Revenge on the purple cart, number 1 on the Tecnos Japan collection. Double Dragon 2 The Revenge is a side-scrolling beat-em-up video game produced by Tecnos Japan, originally released as a coin-operated arcade game in 1988. It is the first sequel to Double Dragon, released during the previous year. Double Dragon 2 was initially developed as an upgrade kit for the original Double Dragon, but evolved into a standalone game due to an increase in memory size, resulting in the developers reusing assets for both games. So in this video, we'll be breaking down Double Dragon 2 The Revenge's story, sound, and gameplay, and you can work it out if this beat 'em up is worth it in today's time. But before we do that, let's give you 5 interesting facts about Double Dragon and their publisher, Tecnos Japan. Tecnos Japan was established in 1981 by 3 former employees of Data East, led by Kununi Taki. The arcade cabinet for Double Dragon 2 The Revenge features distinctive artwork and design elements characteristic of late 1980s arcade machines. Key features include the marquee. The top section displays the game's title with vibrant illustrations of the main characters, Billy and Jimmy Lee, in action poses. Side art. The cabinet's sides are adorned with dynamic scenes depicting the protagonist engaged in combat, set against urban backdrops that reflect the game's environments. Control panel. The front panel includes 2 sets of joysticks and buttons, allowing for 2-player cooperative gameplay, is decorated with thematic graphics that complement the overall design. In Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, the characteristic colours were adjusted for better distinction between the 2 protagonists. Billy and Jimmy were given more distinct colours to make them easier to tell them apart during gameplay. This made it much clearer for players to tell which character they were controlling, especially in multiplayer mode. And this was part of the effort to improve the game's visual appeal and accessibility. After Tecnos Japan's bankruptcy, the company's assets, including its games licenses, were transferred to Million Co. Ltd., a company founded by former Tecnos staff members. In 2015, Arc System Works acquired the rights to Tecnos Japan titles, including the Double Dragon series. Let's talk about the story. If you thought the first Double Dragon was rough, where Billy and Jimmy Lee fought through an army of thugs just to save Marion, you ain't seen nothing yet. In Double Dragon 2, the developers went full dark mode. Right from the opening scene, bam, Marion gets straight up gunned down by the Shadow Warriors. No kidnapping, no ransom, just bullets flying, and our heroes left standing in the rain, fists clenched, vengeance in their eyes. And just like every 80s movie, they don't go to the cops. No. The Lee brothers just decide, let's just take them all on in some kind of Van Damme, karate, ninja warrior, action-packed adventure. And thus, the mission is set. Track down and annihilate every last member of the Shadow Warriors. This isn't about a rescue anymore. This is about payback. And the Shadow Warriors have placed the wrong bet.
Wrong bet.
Right away, they storm the city, taking on waves of thugs in alleys, factories, farms, and even a friggin' helicopter, because why punch bad guys on the ground when you can throw them out of a moving chopper?
Get to the chopper!
The arcade version of Double Dragon 2 The Revenge was released in 1988. According to the video game sales wiki, Double Dragon 2 sold approximately 2,508,300 arcade units. The arcade release was praised for its engaging gameplay and improved mechanics over its original. However, some critics felt it didn't significantly advance beyond the original, noting it is an enjoyable experience, but not a substantial leap forward. The combat system in Double Dragon 2 is more refined than its predecessor. You have basic punches and kicks, but the game also introduces advanced moves like a flying knee, back attacks, and jumping kicks. Additionally, weapons such as knives, pipes, and dynamite can be picked up to help defeat enemies. The game features a diverse range of enemies with different fighting styles. Some enemies carry weapons like knives or whips, while others may engage in hand-to-hand combat. You face a range of mini-bosses and larger bosses as you progress through the game. The game takes players through a series of diverse stages from city streets to helicopter platforms and even enemy hideouts. Each level is filled with enemies to fight, environmental hazards to avoid, and unique challenges. Now let's talk about the sound. The soundtrack for Double Dragon 2 The Revenge was composed by Kazunori Yamane. He worked for the company Tecnos Japan, the developers of Double Dragon series. Yamane's music for the game used synthesizers and electronic beats, helping set the tone for the fast-paced action and providing a significant part of the game's atmosphere. The game's soundtrack was notable for its driving rhythms and catchy themes that became immediately recognizable to players. The main theme in particular was one of the most beloved tracks, blending techno with a bit of rock influence. Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, like its predecessor, is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where players control Billy and Jimmy Lee, two martial artist brothers, as they fight through levels filled with enemies. The Tecnos Arcade 1 from Evercade was released in December 2021 with 8 games on them. Here's a quick look at the 8 games that are on there. Mysterious Stones, Blockout, Combo Tribes, Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, Double Dragon 3 The Rosetta Stone, Mania Challenge, Minky Monkey, Battle Lane Volume 5. And unlike some of the carts out there, this cart is Legacy. That's right, it's super hard to pick up now because they no longer make it. And if you're trying to pick up a bargain, you're gonna have to start looking at eBay and trying to filter through a lot of the scalpers out there. Now, I paid $44.20 for this cart, but because I'm only reviewing one game today, which is Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, I have to divide that by 8 and say that I paid $5.53. To get my money's worth, that means I would need to play the game for about 33 minutes. And did I do that? I just did. I completed the game in 41 minutes with a play count of 2. I didn't use any loads and I didn't use any saves. That's right, I completed this game in one sitting in 41 minutes. Did I still get my money's worth in my equation? I certainly did. In my workout, it means that I used $7.90 per hour, which is under my $10 range, giving this title a tick of approval. Okay, now it's time for my reviews and let's see what you guys think. I rate the story of Double Dragon 2 The Revenge a 3 out of 10 because it relies on a basic predictable revenge plot with little emotional impact. The brothers' motivation to avenge Marion's death is straightforward, but then it goes all supernatural at the end and you end up fighting a shadow version of yourself. It's a little strange. The world building is minimal and the story primarily serves as a way to move you from one fight to the next rather than offering a compelling narrative. While the gameplay is a little bit better, the story just fails to make a lasting impression. I rate the sound of Double Dragon 2 The Revenge a 7 out of 10 because it's iconic and the music is just satisfying with the sound effects enhancing the overall game experience. Look, some would say that the soundtrack is limited in variety, but the main theme alone is memorable and adds energy to the action. And I must say, I really love the synth feel. And lastly, I'll rate the gameplay. I rate the gameplay a 6 out of 10. The directional attack system in Double Dragon 2 The Revenge can feel frustrating and imprecise. It requires you to input specific directions for different moves, which can disrupt the flow of combat and lead to missed or incorrect attacks, especially when you're surrounded by enemies. This adds unnecessary complexity and reduces the fluidity of the gameplay, making it less responsive and more mechanical compared to more intuitive beat-em-ups. However, despite these issues, the game is still fun and engaging with solid action and a nostalgic charm that keeps players like myself coming back time and time again. That's right, guys, and now for the overall score. The overall score balances out to a 5 out of 10. While Double Dragon 2 has some solid elements, especially in terms of sound and gameplay, the story and some aspects of the controls hold it back from being a higher tier classic. If I was rating it purely on nostalgia, it would have been a much higher score. While it might show its age in certain areas, the fast-paced action and iconic combat mechanics still make it a notable title for the arcade era. So the big question, is Double Dragon 2 The Revenge something that is worth going back and playing today in 2025? I think it is, mainly for the nostalgic purposes. But hey, for knowing where beat-em-ups have come from and how they've progressed over the years, this is absolutely fun. And look, playing 2 players is an absolute blast still, and smashing those buttons down. While it's not for everyone, it's still a fun game, especially just running around and punching people in the face. Well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching another episode of a deep dive completion. Please don't forget to give me a like, a subscribe, and hell, put me a comment down below on what game you would like a deep dive next. We'll see you next time on the Odd Socks.